This is Eoghan O'Flanagan versus Jozef Chen in 2023, 2024-ish, before Polaris. This is a pretty technical round. Obviously, they're both very different, practitioners at this point, probably. So keep in mind everything I'm saying is my own opinions. If you like my content, you can support me in my bio, buy me a coffee. And I also linked two of my coaches who I take the most inspiration from for all my concepts and system, I guess, if you can even call it that. I'm not great, but I don't think I'm bad. I'm pretty okay. And this is very much content that is geared towards people who want to be technical hobbyists because welcome to the Masters Division non TRT broken injured dad bench warmers club, right? That's my audience. But yeah, we can just talk about these roles and how you could possibly deal with these things and maybe positions that you could do to adapt so that your knee doesn't explode because you're not a 20-year-old athlete, right? Underscoop delihiva going straight to a knee torque. I like this hand post here because it forces the knee away. That's what you want to get back exposure. And ideally, Joseph would be able to insert this leg and chop down. Absolutely insane that in IBJJF you can just do this and this is legal, but reaping is not. Insane. But he doesn't have another frame, and because he's like roly poly world, he's kind of gets smushed here, right? You can kind of go for like a shallow K position here, but what you really should be scared of is if this guy just throws his hip at you and your leg can't connect to your face and your knee just explodes, right? So what you want is you have this foot framing either on the leg, on the knee, or something, right? Because right now you're basically just attached to the guy and you're praying that your LCL doesn't explode. Like that's dicey, right? And then once you have the frame, I would extract my right leg, use my right leg to frame on the inside of this thigh, and then my left leg can just chop over the top. And you can still get that same backside 50 entry without any of the risk of your leg getting exploded. Here's really cool. Eoghan's going to go for this kind of rolling crab attack, which I think is really legit and really underutilized. I think people don't use back attacks enough. It really does feel like a third of jiu-jitsu. Like I know the whole Danaher thing was like, wow, 50% of jiu-jitsu is the legs, but like people are really missing out on diving back takes. Right, we're in headquarters. Joseph kind of framing on the shoulder. I like this. This is a lot better, I think, than pummeling through for double butterflies, right? Because I think anyone who gets used to that kind of habit, they're just gonna stuff your ankles down, right? You're basically helping them remove your ankles from the equation. And the strongest thing you have is a leg press. So if this knee is a little bit more closed off, you could just straight up leg press this guy away, right? You don't want to extend because you're going to open up the space between your hips and your armpit, which is bad. That's exactly what the passer wants. They want to occupy that space and install wedges and then upgrade their position, right? But I think a lot of people are often throwing in this loosey goosey kind of lasso, which is not great for your knees, and it definitely takes a toll on your hips. So if you have a big ball of scar tissue like me on your hips, you should be mindful of that. And I think for a good majority of this exchange, we're going to see Joseph play guard for like maybe 2/3 of the match, which is great because we don't really get to see his guard that often. And then we'll see what he does to try to pass O'Flanagan. And here, right, something to note is you should be cautious when someone has this kind of leg configuration, right? If you have double butterflies, they can't wrestle up, right? You can't tactical stand up without withdrawing one of your heels underneath your butt, right? And so when you are facing someone who pulls guard with one of their ankles underneath their knee or close to their butt like this, you should expect that they have the intent to grip fight, get a 2-on-1, and then arm drag and stand up and wrestle you, right? This obviously doesn't happen in this round, but that is the intent of this specific kind of position, and you should be more mindful of that. Now, Eoghan's going to just grab the heel and stand up and just walk into like a supine position. I don't think that's that real because I have felt on very high level seated guard players that if you grab their ankle, they basically know and they're going to fish for your wrist and get a 2-on-1 and they're going to anchor down really hard and you're just going to get arm dragged, right? Jon Calestine does this really well. Like you should watch some of his matches. It's very difficult to deal with someone who's very compact. So okay. So to that point, right? What can you do to actually pass someone like this? I think what makes more sense is depending on their spine structure. If they have a curved spine, you're just snap their head down into sprawl, right? Like you basically get them in front headlock. Their spine is not strong. they're not going to be able to wrestle up, and you just crumple them like a shrimp, right? But they have a strong spine, and they're like kind of contesting and using their head as like a post. That's a little bit more difficult to deal with, right? In that sense, I think you need to like neck post and kind of push them off onto a flank corner, because the way that they're based is getting ready for energy coming strictly directly in front of them, right? If you are able to flank and you're able to project weight sideways, it's actually hard, and they have to. They have to, right? If Eoghan's on this side and Joseph has a straight spine and he projects weight that way, right, towards that door over there, Joseph will have to post his arm. Otherwise, he gets pushed over, right? And if they don't do anything, cool, you get supine guard, right? And if they do post, you need to capitalize off that, right? Posting there opens up opportunities to get an underhook, right? Because they're unable to grip fight, and you're basically playing off that dilemma, right? You flank, you project weight into them, they post, and then off that post you get your underhooks, you get to flank, you get to walk into them, you can do what Gordon does where you have your leg and you cross step into the hamstring, a cross hamstring step, and then you just base out into a split squat, right? So those are all options that I would rather go for than just simply grabbing someone's heels, because anyone who's really good at seated guard and is used to that kind of reaction, they're going to anchor their feet to the mat, and they're going to 2-on-1 grip you, and they'll just wrestle up, and you won't even know what's going to happen. I think Jon Calestine had actually a really good match at ADCC trials a while back where he gets this like nasty ninja choke on a guy from a wrestle up. It's really good to see, right? So just be ready for that kind of a guard player. It's going to be tough, but you could just pick up someone's heel. It'll probably work on like 90% of people, but I just stopped doing it because I think there is a very legitimate answer to it. And then here, Joseph going for like this weird pseudo octopus world. I think he wants to use this Turk, which I think is good, right? He's back heeling here to straighten out Eoghan's leg so that there is no post, right? If someone was to push Eoghan into this spot here, you basically dump him on his butt, right? Really good concepts. Doesn't quite work out. They flop over, and I think Eoghan actually takes us back off this seatbelt. And then I know in my other video I've talked about this kind of control where when you get the back triangle, you can cross your legs and have one leg in between your legs. We'll see that in a bit. All right, so Eoghan getting his triangle in. All right, upgrade it, right? Oh, bad place. Now, I think the main concepts for back control is you need a bar across their hips, ideally, and you need control over their shoulders, right? Because the way to escape back control is to turn into the person or get their back to the mat. And once their back is to the mat, you basically lose the whole position, right? I'm sure if you've done like positional backgrounds, you are like, well, how's this guy getting out all the time, right? And it's because you don't have hooks preventing their body from turning. And we'll see what I think is actually a mistake here, right? So in this position, the reason why the body triangle is so strong is because you effectively have two wedges on each of their hips, and they cannot rotate their hips. Now, if they're really athletic and maybe they blast through and you don't have any upper body control, that might happen, right? Maybe you're just not a freak athlete, sorry. But ideal situation, you would have some kind of control on their hips, and then you would also have some kind of control on their shoulders, right? And that's usually done through underhooks, right? And we're going to see how this specific exchange goes in Joseph's favor. So another thing to note is I would highly recommend looking into Lachlan's submeta. He has a course on back control, specifically back triangles. And what he does is he has this triangle configuration very close to this, but instead of having the leg kind of just loosey-goosey here, he actually kind of cups. So what you want to do is you want to cup your foot, almost like the sole of your foot is being oriented towards your partner's taint. And the reason for that is because you want to hide your foot. You don't want them to be able to use their legs to pummel underneath your ankle, right? Eoghan's right ankle, and then unwind your triangle, because then you lose the whole control, right? So you want to hide that leg. And if you do that, it almost acts as a third wedge. I've called this on other videos as like diaper control, which is silly, but you want to think of like kid swings, how they have like those, it looks like a diaper, right? You put the kid in, only the legs can go through, but there's something coming up in the crotch to prevent them from spinning or like flying all over the place. So here you see not connected. And I know when I first started doing this, a lot of people were telling me, damn, this hurts. Like I feel like my leg is cramping. And my answer to that is, well, sorry. Like, fucking practice it, I guess. Because everyone complains when they first start learning about toe pointing, right? And you plantar flex your foot and you can toe slip out of like leg locks. Everyone also complains the same thing, right? My calf hurts, my leg hurts, but like you just get used to it. So I do think that you could club your foot and have it attached, and it's gonna suck the first few times you do it, but you will get better at it, and it's gonna feel like unbelievably good control. It completely changed my game. So the leg is kind of loose here, which is not great. And then the key thing here is that the underhook is on the bottom side. So you see how Eoghan opted right here, bop, right? He wants to stomp on the hip. That's legit. That's a real thing, right? The intent of that is to stomp on the hip so that his body can move more this way, and you can start isolating this arm and attacking like a head and arm, right? The issue with this is there's nothing stopping and hooking Joseph's body towards a Flanagan, right? There's no control on this hip because it's just purely stomping, and there's no underhook on this side. So Joseph's going to be able to spin out because there's no control on either this point here or his shoulder here. So a better way you could do this is if you had a head and arm control with this, or you had the underhook on this side. But effectively, you want to be able to move their body lower on your body, right? Like uh, uh, towards O'Flanagan's like hip line, and that would allow him to throw this leg over the top, over the shoulder. Because you see, like even like he's a pretty flexible guy, right? But like it's still going to be hard, and it's an awkward angle right now for him to use this leg to trap this arm. So I think that's kind of a little bit of a hiccup, and you'll see that Joseph is able to get out, right? He just cups that, and look, there's nothing like belly's already down to the mat, like he's out, right? Yeah, and from this position, 2 on 1s, I think Joseph gets like a near side arm drag wrestle up at this point. Um, and actually, it's pretty slick, right? And this is not a competitive round where they're trying to win. He's just kind of showing like, oh, I could do this, which is good. It's good information. You should be rolling with your partners so you expose each other's games. But hopefully you're rolling with people who understand that you're doing kind of like a catch and release, and it's not like fight to the death on a Tuesday night. Like this is crazy, guys. Relax. Right, so Eoghan kind of playing on double knees. I don't think you could really pass on your knees anymore. Like, I think that's really outdated jujitsu. But I will say with these mats, and you saw earlier there was someone with a towel. There's just a lot of slippage, right? Like, look at his hair, right? So there's a lot of sweat. Sweat is a very serious component of nogi jujitsu because the slippage I think actually benefits the guard player. You're able to spin faster, meaning you can prevent flanks, and the top player has to address like not being able to base as well because of the slippage, right? And here we're in this kind of a headquarters ish position, and then Joseph's going to get his back taken, right? So he comes up on what I assume is going to be like a Kani basami, but I think he doesn't quite have control over this leg. And for that reason, Egan's going to just throw his weight over, get a really far side hip tight waist, and is able to just roll and dump himself into this back take. Which is like, I wish there was more of that. Right, same kind of thing, preventing that hook and then being able to turn out, right? There's no hooks stopping Joseph from turning, right? There's nothing on his shoulder, there's nothing on his hip, so he's able to turn. Right, so again, this kind of like pseudo lasso-ish kind of position to this half butterfly, doing 2-on-1 grips. This is very classic, right? I think the intent that everyone learns is like, oh, you want to pull their weight and then, yeah, hip shift over so you get your single leg X. This is kind of like basic stuff. Going for a straight ankle, kind of a trend lock-ish position. I think He scoops him up, goes to double unders, yeah. And then he like kind of tries to wrestle and it doesn't work. I think it's because of slippage. And I think at this point we transition into Jozef passing, which is really good. And you'll see the difference in their styles, right? So I think with J point or camping or outside passing, the main goal is to get outside the legs because most of the attacks come from when you're in between a guard player's legs. That's why close guard is basically death. And you'll see here that he does a really good job of like funneling, right? So watch Jozef's hands, and he doesn't really push, right? Like that, I'm reading as Eoghan kicking and Jozef guiding that kick and that energy, and that's how you conserve energy and also make it feel like they're getting passed by Ghost. So a lot of what Jozef's hand fighting on a guard player's ankles is kind of guiding, right? You don't want to push, you want to guide. And this is kind of slick. I think this is a little bit of flexibility here, right? He's trying to high step out. I think it's kind of tough to do at that point, and like because he's so long, right? Eoghan is able to just like track that far hamstring, and Jozef trying to like get to the inside position, can't quite get it, and then resets. Right, so like I think the proper way, and what I see Jozef doing a lot is like you aren't expecting one pass to work, right? Like this is going to be one attempt, and he's going to see the guard player's reaction, and then based on that reaction, he's going to just keep, like you see this, like he definitely feels the energy being projected through this leg and is now guiding it, right? Like he's not shoving it, right? He's just guiding it, and you basically want to funnel and outplay your opponent with like technical answers like this, right? He's not like it's not like a gi where you're like grabbing the pant leg and going rah 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 doing battle ropes, right? Like he's just cupping on the outside, and when he feels that there's weight projection, he's just funneling it, right? You're like guiding it into your hip pocket, right? And I think that's the most technical way to pass somebody. And I think you'll see some habits that Eoghan does that I think work because of his size and his flexibility. He will constantly opt to go for this underscoop, which, in my opinion, I think a lot of leg lockers do, and I think it's taught a lot, especially from like half butterfly. You could get the single leg X, you could go for like leg locks, and like that's his bread and butter, right? Outside ashi, outside heel hook. So where I feel dicey about that is I think it only works if you're against smaller people, and if you haven't had the displeasure of being smashed by someone who's either at your level or better than you and 100 pounds heavier, it fucking sucks, right? I think it's the wrong thing to do. Like, there's no frames. Jozef is very close. This is like very close to chest to chest. I think hooking and relying, like, there's no frames, right? The only frame he really has is this kind of like pseudo butterfly hook, which Joseph's going to try to high step pass, right? And this, right? And like at this point, hooking the leg is a little dicey because like you need to get your leg first off out of Jozef's high step and swing it all the way around, right? In order to like invert underneath to get like a leg entry. That's tough, right? If you're not 18 and blissfully unaware of your inflamed body, it's going to be tough to do. So Jozef's game plan from here is he's trying to project weight and make the bottom player stiff arm frame because if they stiff arm, their elbow can't connect to their knee, and then there's space for his right leg to basically high step into. But in this instance, he kind of just shoves up, keeps it as a ball, and Jozef is forced to like reassess and go for a different kind of pass. And here I just really see how like leg length really does matter. Right, catches the leg. I think it's very much like catch and release. Like he's not trying to kill this heel hook right now. And I think they're just kind of feeling out different pathways, which is good. That's productive. That's the way you should roll, right? Again, you see that this pummel into a butterfly hook, I think is a little bit dicey, right? Because look, you effectively remove the only thing framing their upper body, and Jozef's just gonna use his hand, guide it, right? Like he's already primed and ready to do that same kind of like leg drag, right? Steps over and then flanks, and like he's able to recover because he's probably been there like 10,000 times, but That's just the sequence that I feel dicey on. Here, where are the frames, right? There's no frame. This leg is eliminated. The back's off the mat. And like, I understand he's trying to go for a leg entry, right? And like this, dicey, right? The leg is here, but like, if Jozef was like 50 pounds heavier and was just a dick and just like, you know, sat on him like a Goomba, like your leg better be in good condition, right? Into like a classic like X guard, and I think Jozef has a really slick pass here, right? Passes the leg, and then instead of unwinding the normal way we're taught and going this way, he's gonna go the other way, right? Because look, there's no frames. There's no frames, right? He's opting to reach and try to scoop the leg right here. You can't, like, what's actually a threat right now is Jozef's chest, right? Not his legs. This is a hook, right? Not a frame. And then look, disengages, steps over, and gets arguably a really close north-south passing. Now, I will say, he is holding this because he knows he can wrestle up, because big man jiu-jitsu. And then they get into a kind of scramble. But I don't know. I think the proper answer is to frame what's actually attacking you, right? Like this is not a great position, right? Head on the far shoulder, hooking here, and then we're gonna see like Jozef's gonna use his head on this side. It's gonna act as a wedge, right? There's no way, there's no way, even with this weight advantage, there's no way in hell anyone will ever be able to pull this leg through your spine and head, right? And if they can, you shouldn't be rolling with them. Right? Blasting a reverse knee slice, kind of getting close. And I think it's just a size and slippage. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's one small little exchange at the end. And then that's it. All right, gripping. I'm not in love with this, right? What are the frames? So Jozef monitoring this ankle, right? Not doing anything with this. I would retract this knee to my armpit, have this foot face him, and have this foot kind of like post up on his shoulder, right? Because then you can actually have connection and monitor him. Otherwise, right now it's not. This is kind of disengaged, right? This is that kind of eliminated. This is a win for Jozef. Double grip on the wrist. I have mixed feelings about this. I know a lot of people feel like they can't keep going, but I actually think the right answer is if the passer puts their knee on this shoulder and they flop on you, like this is not going to do anything. You're not framing their body from smashing into you, right? And so that means that the only frame you really have left is this bottom leg, which is tough, right? Given the length, you don't want to kick out because it opens up the space between your hip and your bottom hip and bottom armpit. And you'll see like if he backsteps, like look, you already lost connection. You have to like try to find it. It's tough. It's really tough, right? There's some safety here in terms of like a cross shoulder kind of frame, right? And then again, just kind of settling. I think that's it. So if you enjoyed this content, feel free to support. I won't run ads, and you can buy me a coffee. It's link in the bio. I also highly recommend that you should subscribe to the coaches that have really inspired my game. Their links are also in the bio. And a lot of the concepts I have are from them. But let me know what you think, and I'm sure there's stuff in here that I've actually missed and forgot to talk about. But if you have questions, just comment, and I will likely answer because I have no life.